Welcome back to the Solid Sports and Gamer channel. You're watching the Solid Sports video blog, episode 109. And today's date is January 10th, 2020. I'm Troy Westhead. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the support on the channel overall, my video game playthroughs, and my weekly sports blogs, which I started back up again. It's good to be back. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's been supportive. My man Derek, he checked me out every week on the blog, so I appreciate him as well, and all of you who supports the channel. Not much to talk about today, just a big weekend in the NFL playoffs, divisional round this week. I'll break down all 4 games, give you my quick predictions real quick. Talk a little NBA today, a little controversially in Cleveland with Beilein, the head coach, saying the word thugs. I talk a little bit about that and how tight the races is right now in both conferences, the East and the West. We'll touch on that a little bit and just touch on a few things. Touch on the national championship game in college football. That's Monday night. I'll give you my prediction for that. And talk about a little bit more what's coming up on the channel in a few weeks and everything else. So I just want to thank everybody for joining me today. It's Friday. I usually do my blogs on Saturday, but with my work schedule, it's probably be every other Friday and every other Saturday. So my next week's blog will probably be Saturday, because I'm off on Saturday. But this week I'm off on Friday, so I'd rather do it on a day when I'm off, so I can take my time and really write my notes and everything down. So it'll be like I said. So I'll just say weekly. It'll be Friday or Saturday every week. So let's go and get started. Let's not waste any more time. NBA, let's talk about the NBA first. I ain't gonna touch on no baseball this week. Ain't a lot of news going on in baseball, so I'll leave baseball alone this week. But let's talk about the NBA. Let's go ahead and talk about Beilein, the Cavs head coach. A little controversial. I believe that it happened. I read that he was in a meeting with his players, and he basically said, because they've been playing better. They actually came back and won last night against the Detroit Pistons. I think they was down by like 15, and then I checked the score again, and they wound up winning the game in overtime. They've been playing a lot better, so he was pretty much complimenting them, saying that, not saying about like a bunch of slugs. Well, a bunch of thugs, he said first, but then he tried to walk it back and say he meant to say slugs. So I've seen a lot of people most people are offended by it. Some of the players pretty much came out in support of him, said it wasn't that big of a deal. But I personally stand on it. I guess it's the way you use the word thug, because that's basically the word here. Basically, it's like a racial slur to African American men, and you see that I'm African American. I wouldn't be like getting called a thug, like in the term of like who I am as a person. But I think, well, in that context, I don't know how to take it, because he wasn't really saying, he was saying if he was saying y'all not playing like a bunch of thugs, I think that would be a little bit offensive, if he was trying to like pump up the team. But I heard a couple of personalities say, well, on a basketball court, that's sort of a compliment, playing thuggish, being rough, not being soft, basically. But I think in the way he used it, I don't think he was meaning it that way. But he said he didn't mean to say the word at all. He meant to say y'all not playing a bunch of slugs anymore. So everything got misconstrued. Of course, it's been a big firestorm this week. Like I said, I'm not personally offended by it, but I can see how some people would be, or if the players were, even though it was reports that the players was a little bit taken back by it, but then thought about it and really felt like he made a mistake. But they said that he's struggling to get along with the players in the NBA. He was a college coach for a long time. He coached Michigan back on top a little bit again, at least competitive. I think they made the Elite Eight or the Final Four I think they made the Final Four one year. Yeah, I think they did. Michigan made the Final Four. So he had them respectable. Then that's how he got the Cavaliers job in the off season. But they said he struggled to adjusted to the NBA, the pro level of the game. So People say, well, he might not make it through the year. I don't know about all that, but Cleveland have been playing better as of late. So we'll see. But they, Cleveland ain't really been that great of a franchise other than LeBron being there. So I think it's gonna take some years. I think they got a few tells about Kevin Love. So well, he came out and said he wanted to be out of there. So it's just a little bit of a mess there in Cleveland. And, I don't see it get no better. At least not in the time being. You're in the Eastern Conference. I guess that's something you could take, sort of wide open. Like if you just get a piece here and there, you can compete for a playoff spot. But I like the young point guard Saxton. I like him. So Christian Toffers to be still a viable player, but other than that, just a bunch of pieces there. But as far as the whole controversy, like I said, it didn't really catch my eye so much once I read it. I think he made a mistake. I personally think he did, but the way you just can't, not in this day and age, the context that he used it, I don't see him, how he can say that was more, well, people twisted it, said maybe he was trying to pump up the players. I don't see that. I think he, like I said, I don't know him, so I guess I get a benefit of the doubt. But yeah, you just can't, and I think somebody said the way it is now, like back in the back maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, every meeting wasn't publicized. Now if something happened in the meeting, a player could go tweet out what was said, what happened, or media media is much more powerful now than it was 15-20 years ago. Like you really had private meetings. Now it's nothing is private anymore. So that is a good point. Like this probably would have never got out if this happened 15-20 years ago. But like I said, I think it's not that big of a deal, but it got blown up a little bit. Just hopefully learn from his mistake and don't say it again. Don't even use the word slug no more. But Cleveland had been playing better, so maybe it did sort of light a fire in them some type of way. So other than that, in the NBA, like I said, it's just I see the article talking about how tight the races is this year so far, how much parity it is in the league. In the West, the Lakers got like 3 or 4 games above everybody else, and then everybody else sort of bunched in there. And in the East, it's the same way. Milwaukee, I think they only have like 5 losses. And then it's that group of Toronto, Miami, Indiana, that little group, Philadelphia, Boston. Like all of them pretty much have the same records, of separated by games, a few games or whatever. Then it's that drop off with Orlando and Brooklyn, in the bottom of the East, well, the bottom 8. But I think this year, like I said, even in the West, I think it's just it's wide open. Golden State, basically it's no longer existed. And since LeBron moved from Cleveland, there's no clear-cut East team. Even though Milwaukee, to me, I think it's theirs to lose over there. And I'm starting to think the Lakers is the same way. Even though the Lakers, I think they'd be challenged by Denver, so still a quiet. Even though they played well last year, they still a quiet team nobody really talks about. You gotta give Houston a chance with Westbrook and Harden. The Clippers, of course, with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, even though they're struggling here of late, here and there. But I think they go get it together once they get everything. Plus, people been in and out of their lineup, I think, as well. So, but I think they're the formidable teams in the West that will challenge the Lakers. I think Milwaukee really. I think like I said, I think Philadelphia have a chance. Especially how they look. On Christmas Day against them. They got Embiid, and that could sort of match up with Giannis on a physical standpoint. But all they did with Philadelphia, to me, like I said, their shooting has to improve for them to really be a contender. Miami, they just got a bunch of good players. Jimmy Butler quietly is leading the Heat. That's a team to look out for. There with the front office of Pat Riley and the coach of the Spurs, Eric Spoelstra. In the playoffs, I think they'd be ready for anybody. Boston, to me, is a sleeper. I don't want to say sleeper, but Boston, with the talent that they have with the young guys, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, that's another team to watch out for. But I think it's not going to change. I don't think nobody going to really separate themselves. I think it's going to be up and down all year. Probably from 2 to 8 in both conferences. You're not going to know who's going to finish there. I think the Lakers will wind up with the 1 seed. I do think Milwaukee will definitely wind up with the 1 seed in the East. I think everybody else will be bunched up. Depends on matchups and stuff like that. Even in especially in the West, I think the West. I mean, other than only why I don't really count out the Warriors. If Steph really want to come back, if Clay come back, they can make a push and get back into the playoff race. It's still kind of early. All-Star break is coming in a month, so. But we'll see. But I don't think that's going to change. I think it's going to stay tight the whole year. I don't see anyone really separating themselves, and then it's going to depend on who match up with who in the playoffs. We'll see who advances. And another little note I've seen in the NBA news: LeBron James took back over the top votes for the All-Star game. You know, I think now they have captains. The top 2 vote getters pick teams. So it's not East against West no more. At first I didn't like that, probably because I'm so used to that. You know, I grew up watching East versus West. But now I didn't mind it. Once I seen it the first, I think last year, I think this will be the 3rd year they done this. I kind of got warm to it, you know. So it's not bad, you know. And, you know, NBA All-Star to me is the best All-Star festivities out of all 3 major sports. But if you throw hockey in there, I think it's basketball. I think it's the NBA, then it's MLB. I probably wouldn't even take the hockey All-Star game with NFL because the Pro Bowl is, it's just because you can't, it ain't real football because nobody don't want to get hurt, which is understandable. I think they should just do away with the game. Now for the children, like when I was a kid, I used to love the Pro Bowl because you got to see, you were so excited to see all your favorite players all in one place. So I think that's why I'm hesitant to take the game away completely, but it would kill me if they did, because you don't get a real football game with the Pro Bowl. Then half the guys don't show up. Then it's in between Super Bowl week. So basically the teams that make the Super Bowl, most of their players are not going to be there because they got prepared for that. So it's just ain't worth it as a deep football fan. But at the same time, I think I just imagine when I was a kid, I used to love the Pro Bowl. So I guess I want to take it away for the kids. That would be it. That would be the only reason why I wouldn't take it away. But let's speak of the NFL. Let's talk about the NFL now. Of course, divisional playoffs are this week. 4 games, 2 tomorrow and 2 Sunday. Tennessee and the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, that's the late game Saturday, 8:15. That's in the AFC. Houston against Kansas City, that's Sunday. That's the early game Sunday, 3 o'clock kickoff around there. Both Kansas City 10-point favorite and Baltimore 10-point favorite. And in the NFC, Minnesota, San Francisco tomorrow afternoon, early game. San Francisco 7-point favorite at home, and Seattle, Green Bay 5-point favorite at home in Lambeau. And their game is the late game Sunday. But first, before we talk about that, let me hit on some of these coaching hires. A lot of coaching hires this week. There's another controversial topic this week, especially with the Giants hire of Joe Judge, who I never heard of before. But he was a wide receiver coach for the Patriots. He got the Giants job. The Redskins finalized Ron Rivera. I think I broke that when I was recording last week. I think I heard the news there with that. But they finalized that, so he will be the next coach for Washington Redskins. Dallas wound up hiring Mike McCarthy, former Green Bay coach. Any more out there that could hire? I think that was it for this week. They was the 3 main ones for sure. I don't think it was any more hires other than the ones. Carolina hired Matt Rule. That's the other one, with former coach for Baylor. He got that job. And then, of course, the controversy was well, the Joe Judge hire with the Giants, and the fact that it's only now 3 African American head coaches and 4 minority coaches if you count Ron Rivera. Who was it? Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, he's African American. He's in Pittsburgh. Anthony Lynn out in LA with the Chargers, and Flores down in Miami. Of course, he used to work for the Patriots for years. And Marvin Lewis actually got interviewed for the Dallas Cowboys job, but they would say that was basically just a smokescreen, just for the Rooney Rule, which I think the Rooney Rule is good to have it, but I mean, people still hiring who they want to hire, so it's no point in even having that rule to me. Like, you just required to interview minorities, but you're not obligated to hire one. So what's the point of the rule in the first place? You know, for that reason, because you're gonna hire who you want to hire. I think it's, you know, I think it's a problem. Not saying it's not a problem. Not that just have 3 African American head coaches, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I guess owners gotta be more open-minded. You know, most of these owners are millionaires. They don't relate to a lot of people, and they say that's the reason why they hire who they comfortable with. You know, which is basically another white person. You know, and I don't think it's that shallow per se, but that's what it seems like. You know, I don't know. I do think the Marvin Lewis interview was like a smokescreen. He's still out there. You got Hugh Jackson still out there, even though Hugh Jackson didn't do well in Cleveland, but I think you can't hold that against him too much. It's Cleveland, you know, not a stable organization. But they're the first two guys that come to mind. It's coordinators out there. Brian Leftwich, I think, name came up. He was the quarterbacks coach. I think he got promoted to offensive coordinator. I might be wrong about that. I think he got promoted to offensive coordinator. But that'd be somebody I wouldn't mind seeing. Honestly, I thought Dan Quinn at Atlanta Falcons would lose his job, but they kind of made a push at the end of the season. I don't know if that's why they kept him. I thought for sure he would be gone because of the disappointing season that they had, but they did pulled off some big wins before the season was over. Got to 7-9. But like I said, this I don't know. I think we're just too sensitive to things nowadays too. I mean, you know, I'm not sitting up here saying things don't exist. It's not racism out here. It's not all those things. But I just think at the same time, you know, it is improving. You know, I believe. You know, I might be wrong. Maybe I'm naive about this. If somebody can enlighten me on that, they can. But you know, and then another point people brought up. Well, it's the league is 75% black, which is true. You know. And you would think, you know, for the players, they relate more to African American coach. But I think the players more relate to former players. So more former players. Like I think I heard Hines Ward was on the sidelines coaching. I think he was on the Titans sideline, or yeah, I believe he was on the Titans sideline or somewhere else. I know he wasn't in Pittsburgh, but you know, like. Maybe those guys should get pushed up, you know, maybe get head coaching positions. But I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's coincidental, but I also think it's, you know, it is a little bit biased. You know, just owners just being comfortable with keep hiring the same. That's why I understand why guys like Mike McCarthy. I mean, I didn't have a problem with that hire with the Cowboys, but I'm like, you know, you already had a chance. You know what I'm saying? You know, I think. This coach should get as recycled as they do. I think that's a problem, you know, and I don't think that's necessarily a black or white thing. I just think, you know, owners just comfortable to be comfortable, and you know, and that's it. I think that's the main thing. I don't think it's more. I don't think it's like a race thing, you know, not necessarily a race thing. It plays a part, but it's not the only issue. But we'll see what happens, you know. I think the only job that's open is the Cleveland job. Let's see what they do. So we can have another minority coach with that team. But we'll see what happens. And then, like I said, I would put it past some other coaches, maybe get fired. Is the Jaguars job still open? Maybe I should check that. I don't think they hired anybody yet. I think that job is open, I believe. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm just not as sensitive. I just think people pull the race card too often sometimes. In this situation, like I said, maybe it need to be pulled, but I don't think it's like a I don't want to hire a black coach because I'm racist. I don't think that's the reason. I think it's more they just feel more comfortable with a white coach or a coach that already has been in the league, Because, like I said, I didn't like the Mike McCarthy hire, but then when I started hearing people's opinions on it, it kind of made me think, well, Dallas, just look at their division. The Giants just hired a rookie head coach, never coached before. Redskins have Robert Rivera, he has experience. And of course you got Doug Peterson at Philadelphia, which is a Super Bowl coach. So I think they didn't want to, they would say maybe they didn't want no college guy like Lincoln Riley or Urban Meyer. Those names came up too. And a college game, they didn't want nobody to have to adjust, on the job. They want somebody that sort of already have experience. So that makes sense, that makes sense. But like I said, McCarthy has already had a job, but I don't think he's a bad coach because I think he did a good job at Green Bay. And they was comparing him, if you compare him to other coaches in the league, Sean Payton, who gets a lot of credit, Pete Carroll, who gets a lot of credit too, but they only got one ring. And Malaki also have a ring. It was a long time ago, but he does have a Super Bowl ring. So you can't argue with him with too much. All right, let's get into the games now. I just want to touch on that because it was sort of a controversial week with that. Let's start. I'm gonna do it by day. Last week I did it. Well, it's sort of set up because it was an NFC on Saturday and the AFC on Sunday. I mean, AFC was Saturday. I think the NFC games was Sunday. My bad. But this week it is split. The first game of the weekend is Houston at Kansas City. Minnesota at San Francisco is the first game Saturday. That's the first game Sunday, Houston, Kansas City. Minnesota, of course, surprised a lot of people last week, winning on the road in New Orleans. New Orleans was a Super Bowl team, so now I got to make a different pick. Who will come out the NFC? Minnesota had, like I said, I did say before that game, they have the talent to go all the way, really. I think I can see them winning this game. I'm not picking them to win this game, though. San Francisco 7-point favorite. I think they healthy. And in 2 weeks to prepare, I think it is an advantage. Now, Minnesota, like I said, if they can get they front four, they front seven, get some pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that would help. But San Francisco like to run the ball, so I think Minnesota had to prioritize stopping the run. But can Kirk Cousins do it 2 weeks in a row? That's the question been this week. Adam Thielen is hobbled. He's questionable for the game, so if he can't go, that'll be a big loss. Because Stephon Diggs, I ain't really heard much about him last week. But a lot of pressure be on him. Dalvin Cook was back. I think that's huge for Minnesota as well. But I got the 49ers winning this game. I think it'd be closer than that 7-point spread though. 49ers at home. The fans are back into it now because that stadium used to be quiet, but that stadium is rocking now. I just think it'd be too much for the Vikings. I think they put a lot into that game last week, and I think they ain't gonna have it for this week. I think the 49ers go ahead and walk through, pull this one out, but I think it'll be closer than the 7-point spread though. Of course, the Saturday night game, big game. Of course, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I've said it 1,000 times before. I'm a Ravens fan, so a huge game here in Baltimore. Tomorrow night, 8:15 kickoff. Tennessee Titans at the Baltimore Ravens. Titans also pulled off an upset last week, as you call it, that against the Patriots, even though a lot of people was picking the Titans to pull that upset. Derrick Henry, monster game, over 180 yards rushing. Ravens 10-point favorites. That sounds about right. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit closer than that. But all the Ravens to me have to do is just prioritize stopping the run. Just like that's going to be the theme probably this week, period, for all these matchups. If you can control the run, you're fine, and just put all the pressure on the quarterback. I think if they do that with Tannehill, even though Tannehill had an awesome year, had the best passer rating in the league, I think if you take Travis Henry away, I think they'd be fine. Lamar Jackson, he's ready. They say Mark Ingram is ready, but he's still a little hobbled. I think that's somewhat of a concern, but I believe in Gus Edwards. I love Gus Edwards. I think he should get the ball even more, and he should get at least 15, 20 times this week. Ingram, Ingram sort of be the backup this week since he's still a little hobbled, and let Lamar do his thing. Tennessee defense is not terrible, but it's not great. I think we'll be able to exploit that. I think the Ravens win this game. I think the 10-point spread is just about right. I think it'll be about a 10-point game. Could be a little closer, but I think the Ravens will pull away. I think the first half would be sort of, people feel each other out, just like most playoff games is. I think the second half, the Ravens will put the gas pedal on and pull away. I think they'll win by 10, maybe more, but it could be a little less, But the 10-point spread, I think it's a perfect spread. So I got the Ravens in that game. So let's move on to Houston at Kansas City. And Kansas City is a 10-point favorite. This is the early game Sunday, 3:05. So a little bit of a weird time. 3:05 kickoff in this game. Houston struggled a bit with the Bills. They went to overtime last week. J.J. Watt came back. I think that gave him some emotional lift there. Chiefs and Andy Reid, I should say, well, both. Andy Reid and the Chiefs are historically, when they have a home playoff game, they sort of blow it. So if this is one of the years they do that, I don't know. But I just think Kansas City is just sort of how I feel about the Saints. I just think they've been knocking on the door. Andy Reid been knocking on the door his whole career. I just don't see it. I'd be shocked if they lose this game, honestly. I don't think they're going to blow them out for so much. I think Houston are hanging there. Deshaun Watson is a winner, so when he's back against the wall, he plays his best football. But with Houston, like I said, they can't protect Deshaun. He's going to have to run all around. I think, like I said, I think the Terrell Suggs pickup by the Chiefs is going to probably go benefit in this game for sure. So that Houston offensive line is their weak point. I think Kansas City will exploit that, able to limit Deshaun a little bit. They Chiefs make a couple of big plays with Tyreek Hill down the field. They had 10-point favorite as well. I think theirs was a little high, actually. But it wouldn't shock me, though, if this wound up being a blowout either. So, but long story short, I got the Chiefs winning. So that sets up the Chiefs and the Ravens next week in the AFC Championship game. And let's move on to the final game of the weekend. Seattle at Green Bay. Seattle 5th seed, Green Bay the 2. Got the bye. Supposed to be bad weather. The late game Sunday, I think it's about a 6:45 kickoff, something like that. Russell Wilson, like I said, it's hard to doubt this man. Like this is probably the toughest game for me to pick. Aaron Rodgers been kind of quiet all year long. Haven't had one of them Aaron Rodgers games this year. Once again, this would be about stopping the run for both of these teams. Marshawn Lynch is back with Seattle, as you saw last week, and Aaron Jones has been underrated, sort of underrated to me. A lot of people don't talk about him, but was basically the Green Bay offense this year. So whoever can slow down the run, I think they give them a better chance to win. Especially in the bad weather. Oh man, this is a tough one. Green Bay 5-point favorites, they at home. Seattle's been good on the road this year, so it's like you can make a big argument for both teams. But my gut, I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna go with Seattle. I think Russell Wilson just pull something out of his hat and somehow win this game. I think Green Bay, I'm hesitant on them because of the offense, because just haven't been consistent. Seattle's haven't either. There's been times the offense has been, even in the game last week against Philadelphia. I was wondering why they didn't give the ball to the rookie Metcalf more. I think he needed to get the ball more. Tyler Lockett need to step up too for Seattle. This is a tough game. This could go either way, but my gut is saying Seattle. So I'm just gonna go in with my gut. So that set up the third meeting of the year between Seattle and San Francisco next week in the NFC Championship game. Or I'll wait, to pick that game because, it could be the flip. It could be any matchup next week. So I'm not going to predict that far yet. I'll wait till next week. But I got Seattle and San Francisco meeting in the NFC Championship game, and I got the Chiefs and the Ravens. I already got the Ravens, of course, because I picked the Ravens to come out the AFC. So, but we'll see if that be the matchup. It could be some upsets this week. But this is one of the most exciting weeks in the league as well, with these top games. Now, teams coming off the byes definitely have advantage, and that's the only advantage I give Green Bay. Other than that, I just can't go against Seattle right now. At least not until maybe next week. We'll see. But that's my look for the NFL playoffs. So that's it. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a lot to talk about this week. One more big football game though, which will be Monday. National Championship. LSU Tigers #1 against the #3 Clemson Tigers. Both teams come in undefeated. They give it LSU 6 points. Like I said, this game I see playing out if basically, like I've been saying, I think I said this last week, if Clemson, and the weird, well, I don't want to say the weird thing is, something going to have to give because Clemson is #1 in defensive efficiency in college football, and LSU was #1 in offense in college football. So, but to me, if Clemson don't get pressure on Burrow, I don't see how Clemson will stop them. And I think Clemson will be able to score some points as well. I think this might be a shootout, probably in the high 30s. Maybe somebody will make a play at the end, but I just think it'll be LSU. I think LSU will win this game. But if Clemson do win this game, Dabo Swinney, he'd be something else. They had to be talked about up there with, not quite Saban, but definitely in the conversation, because he's gonna win I think this would be 2 in a row for Clemson if they win. So yeah, so be some great football this week, not just in the NFL and college football as well. So let me wrap up episode 109. Just to give you a channel update. Like I said, I think I said this last week, but now we're about 2 weeks away from Kakarot, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, game you probably heard of, a little RPG version of basically Dragon Ball Z. I plan on getting that game and starting that project soon. It comes probably a few days after it come out. And also I want to check out the Outer Worlds. I've been checking out clips of that game. So there are 2 projects I want to start soon. I'm going to continue Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, finish the Crash Team Racing, Nitro through the Adventure mode, finish that project as well soon, probably do some work today. Few projects I didn't finish, my Mega Man X collection, I got to Mega Man X5 I think, so I want to probably start that again. And also Sonic Mania, I just had to finish off the raid playthrough. I think I'm about halfway through that. I left that off before I shut the channel down for a while. But they're the upcoming projects I have for the channel. I'll be doing a blog next week. So next week's blog will be Saturday. I'm off Saturday, so like I said, this works around my work schedule. So that's why I decided to do the blog this morning, because I was off and I had time to write my notes and everything. And I didn't want to rush it on Saturday. I would have had to sort of rush through it. I didn't want to do that. So it'll be like I said, every next week it'll be Saturday, then the week after that it'll be Friday, and it'll be a rotation. Every other Friday is Saturday, but it'll still be weekly, right here on the Solid Sports and Gaming channel. So that'll do it for this week. Just want to say thank you to all my supporters once again. Enjoy the football this week. Big games, NFL and college football championship. And I just want to say thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. If you're here in Baltimore with me, great weather this week. I ought to enjoy it. And I thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Troy West saying thank you so much. And you just was watching the Solid Sports video blog right here on the Solid Sports and Gamer channel. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time.